Shalom Aleichem. It's Erev Hanukkah, and Hanukkah, of course, is illumination. Hanukkah is brightness. Hanukkah is or, light. The light is upon us. The light is here. So with this in mind, I know many people have Hanukkah parties, families get together, and it's important to think about those that are by themselves, to invite them or to go to them. They should feel united. So I'll tell a few stories that maybe you could use at your Hanukkah parties. One story I heard this past Shabbos in Toms River, New Jersey, near Lakewood. A friend, Rebbe Yosef Scheidler, told me the story. Several years ago, he was living in Lakewood, and Shabbos morning, some neighbors knock on his door early in the morning. They say, "Come outside because your car has been broken into." He goes outside and he realizes that not only was it broken into, but about $10,000 of gear, of equipment. He's a photographer, a specialized photographer, does a great job, and it was stolen. Comes back, he tells his wife. The police are called somehow. The police come, they take a report, but the material is not there. The gear is gone. Motzei Shabbos, he goes, he sees the Rebbe's picture, he sees his Sfarim, he talks to the Rebbe and he says, "Rebbe, my dear Rebbe, I can't anymore. This is my parnasa, you have to help me." And he takes out and he puts a letter into the Igros Kodesh of the Rebbe, the letters of the Rebbe, and he opens to a page where the Rebbe says to someone, "Don't be anxious about your parnasa. It'll be all okay." After he got this answer, his wife was out somewhere, and he went in a park. I think it was the next day, Shabbos afternoon, and it was Motzei Shabbos Sunday. Whenever it was, he is dancing with simcha, with joy. People are looking at him, neighbors. It's a new area, Toms River, where a lot of from people are moving into, and they ask him what's going on. You know, they knew that he had a break-in, and he lost a lot of gear worth thousands of dollars. And he says, "I know I'm going to get it all back. I got a bracha from the Rebbe." You know, there aren't Lubavitches there really. There's Litvische and Hasidische, they're not Hasidim of the Rebbe, and they look at him like he's crazy. And even his own wife, I mean. It's wonderful that her husband has such a emunah, but meanwhile the gear is not here. He had tickets to go to the Ukraine. He took his wife on a trip to Ukraine to the Alter Rebbe, and he went to Hadich, I think he went to Yezhin. Anyway, he was in the Alter Rebbe Zoyel Chavdalet Tevis, and he comes out of the oil, the phone rings, and he sees it's a number from New Jersey. And it's the police department, Lakewood, the police department calling him, and they said, "We found your gear." And they told them that there's a law in New Jersey, that when you give a pawn shop items to sell, they are not allowed to sell it for 10 days because maybe it's stolen goods and the real owner will come and claim it and it'll be returned. They said the police said they hadn't heard anything in almost the end of the 10th day. 1 hour, they called, the last hour of the 10th day, they got a call that this is the items, or they became aware of it, the police, and they claimed the items, and they said this is stolen goods. The last hour of the 10th day, while he was standing at the Alter Rebbe's kever in Hadich. After the Rebbe answered him that you have nothing to worry about with your parnasa. Don't be anxious, it'll be all right. He told me the Maisa, he recorded for me, Maisa Shehoya, the story, Kach Hoya. Rabbi Isai, use it, Hanukkah, by your masibas, by your gatherings. Another story, I received an email out of the blue this week from a gentleman named Rebbe Korn. I never met him, I never heard of him. He wants to buy a book of mine on Rabbi Hutner and the Rebbe, one of the books that I wrote. So I emailed him back, just out of curiosity, how does he come to know about my book? And they were talking back and forth on the email. And then he calls me, he says, enough with the email, let me tell you. And he writes and he speaks about how the Rebbe's a malach, and how Rabbi Hutner's a great tzaddik, and he lauds the Gedolim and the Rebbe's, and he's not a Lubavitcher. And he says like this, in the early 70s, 71, 72, when Jem, I don't know if they had the name Jem then, when the hookups of the Fabrengens during the week started on WLCC, WEVD, with Rabbi Hecht, Rabbi Yaakov Yehuda Hecht, translated the Fabrengens, the public Fabrengens, Yud Beis Tammuz, Yud Shvat, Yud Tes Kislev, Yud Aleph Nisan, started in those years. I don't remember exactly, 71, 72, 73, those years. One of those years, he, who grew up from, a new Yiddish from Toronto, came to New York as a single man, young man. And, he was having his struggles. He kept Shabbos, he kept Yiddishkeit, but, he was having struggles. Anyway, his friends tell him, listen, it's Saturday night. Let's go out to a party. Where, what, when? He says, fine, pick me up, No, you knew that it wasn't exactly, a Fabrengen for sure. It wasn't a holy masibah, holy gathering. And he says, when you're downstairs, call me, or, and I'll come down. Okay. Meanwhile, he gets dressed to go out to the party. For some reason, he turns on the radio. And there was a Fabrengen on WEVD. And he understands Yiddish. And he heard the voice that he never heard before. He knew of the Lubavitch and Lubavitcher Rebbe, and then he heard that it's a Fabrengen with Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he just became glued to the voice. And he told me he put his two hands, his two elbows on the table like this, and he just stood there glued, listening for 10 minutes, mesmerized. Elsewhere. The phone rings, he takes the phone, it's his friends, we're here, come down. He says, I'm not going, go yourself. A change of plans, I'm not going. He was so taken by the Rebbe's voice. He told me he didn't understand much. He understands the Yiddish, but the context, whatever the Rebbe was speaking about, he says he just could not go to somewhere that wasn't exactly, kosher. I don't mean kosher. It wasn't in the spirit of Frumkeit and Yiddishkeit. Again, I don't know. He didn't tell me where, what, when, but it wasn't for a yeshiva bacher. Okay, let's put it that way. Instead, he went downstairs. He took the train to Crown Heights because he heard this while the Rebbe was Fabrengen. He told me he stood up in the back somewhere and he saw the Rebbe saying l'chaim to people, and he asked for l'chaim, and he got some l'chaim, picked up his cup, and he says, the Rebbe looked at him. He says, maybe the Rebbe was looking at different people as well, but to me, he says, it was like he was looking into my eyes and saying, l'chaim, I know what you just went through, l'chaim u'levrocha, you should grow as a Yid. And from that day on, he did. Rabbi Isai, a second story from not a Lubavitcher who told this to me this week. just the voice of the tzaddik made an impact on him. So Rabbi Isai, use these stories, make a chassidische Farbrengen, remember to give Hanukkah geld, not only to your family, but to friends and others, to do the mivtzoyim, to reach out. If you can't visit people, call them, talk to them. It's a time when we bring light into the world. La Yehudim hoysa oira, v'simcha v'sosim v'kor. Through the light, we'll be zeicha, will merit to have Mashiach Tzidkenu immediately. Amen v'amen. L'chaim.